Why don't we go into this kind of last tier here? This is kind of like our late round flyer dart throw section here, tier five. Who are some of the names that you put in this range?
Sure. We start with Noah Fant with Seattle at tight end 22. Then I have Ertz at 23. Luke Musgrave, the Packers rookie tight end at 24. Dawson Knox at 25. Taysom Hill at 26. Hayden Hurst at 27, now with the Panthers. Michael Mayer with the Raiders at 28, the rookie there. And then Trey McBride at 29. And then Jelani Woods with the Colts at 30.
Nice. All right. And then for me, tier five starts at 22 as well with Hayden Hurst with the Panthers. And then I put Jake Ferguson with the Cowboys, Tyler Conklin with the Jets, Mike Gesicki with the Patriots, Taysom Hill with the Saints, Noah Fant with the Seahawks, Michael Mayer with the Raiders, Dawson Knox with the Bills, and then Hunter Henry at tight end 30 with the Patriots. But since this is again pretty much a dart throw range here, what were some of the guys that maybe are some favorites of yours that you'd want to highlight within this tier?
Sure. So I think the nice thing about this year is it feels like there are more dart throws that are worth throwing compared to some past years, especially with some of the rookies that we've talked about with Musgrave and Michael Mayer with the Raiders this year in this tier, and the guys that we had in tier four as well. Some of the younger guys, Trey McBride, like I said, could be stepping up this year. Jelani Woods, I think, is interesting with the Colts in that Indianapolis, I feel like, has had talent at tight ends in recent seasons, but they've just had too many guys rotating in and out. But with the new coaching staff that has favored tight ends in the past, there's a chance that someone can emerge from that team. And I think Woods would be the player that emerges. So none of these guys are safe bets to do much of anything, but I think Woods is someone who has the potential to get there. And there's also a mix of guys who will probably be better than tight end 22, just without the possibility of being a top 10 tight end. I think Noah Fant with Seattle, they've liked using a rotation of tight ends, and I think that'll continue this year. Plus, they added more talent at wide receiver. So I think Fant will see plenty of targets, just not enough to be a top 10 tight end. But if you're in a league that, for whatever reason, is starting two tight ends, Fant's definitely there. I don't think Knox is completely going to go away in Buffalo, and there's still a chance that Knox can be a starter and see the majority of playing time. And like we said before, he's a touchdown machine, so there's a chance he'll be there. And then I believe we talked about Hill on the first episode, but Taysom Hill is an interesting player in that he was scored a ton of fantasy points last year, mostly as a rusher, a little bit as a receiver, a little bit as a passer. But the Saints invested in more running backs this year, so they might not need Hill as much rushing. They invested in a quarterback, so they might not need Hill as much as a passer. And he is getting up there in age, which probably means his speed might be declining a little bit. So I just don't expect Hill to be used as much on offense as he was in years past, but there's certainly a chance that he is. And if he is used as much as he was last year, then he can be a top 10 tight end potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good call. And then, yeah, a couple of the other guys like that I like to start throws. I put Jake Ferguson with the Cowboys, another one of those kind of maybe small sample size guys, but posted some impressive numbers, 1.66 yards per route run, which was ninth at the position. Decent yak per reception, which was ranked 13th. He had a 75.2 receiving grade. Which ranked 10th. Again, these are all minimum like 20 targets. But I think with McCarthy, maybe potentially being the new play caller in Dallas, we could see more of like a narrowed focus on one tight end in the Cowboys passing game. Dalton Schultz is gone now. It could also potentially be a more pass heavy offense under McCarthy as well. So I do like the potential for more volume for Jake Ferguson, even though he only played like 40% of the offensive snaps as a rookie last year. I think his role could increase in year two. So he's a guy that I like kind of late. And then Tyler Conklin as well with the Jets. You got Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers coming in, which could be a positive for Conklin as one of those late round tight end targets as well. We saw Hackett utilize Greg Dulcich in kind of a fantasy relevant way last season by allowing more usage and targets to the slot tight end than what the Jets did last season. Conklin feels like the favorite to play the tight end one role in that offense, which should also be an improved passing attack. We just saw him finish as PPR tight end 15 in 2022 on a really poor offense. So even with more target competition potentially hurting some of his opportunities, that tight end 24 range in like the final 2 or 3 rounds of drafts is a nice value in my opinion. So you really just kind of wait till the end to grab a lot of these guys. But those are a couple that I ended up liking.
That's fair. And like some of them, I'm a little concerned about if there's going to be too many tight ends rotating in for playing time, which is why, like even in Dallas, they went with Peyton Hendershot, and then they drafted that other tight end. So they have a couple guys in Dallas that I don't know if Ferguson will end up being the receiving guy. Um, Conklin will also have competition at tight end. Henry will also have competition. So
Yeah.
if you're in some weird leagues where you're starting 2 tight ends, then the guys I think I'd consider. But if you're only starting 1 tight end, it's a lot of this is you're trying to find the opportunity for them to be a top 10 guy, and I have a hard time seeing it unless they clear cut get the top role on their team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair. These guys are all pretty much again, kind of the dart throw range, but just kind of depends who you like and what your feeling is as you get towards that later part of your draft. But yeah, that wraps up our 2023 positional previews with some fun discussion around the tight end position. I hope everyone found that helpful. But speaking of fun discussions, we did want to add something new to the podcast. Could be like a quick little window into kind of who we are as well. But we wanted to do a recurring 5-round draft segment on random topics where we draft the best possible team of whatever topic it is for that week, and then they'll be able to kind of go head to head with each other. So naturally for us, the first idea that comes to mind was not football related, but instead we gravitated toward drafting the strongest superhero teams as our first topic. So strongest being the key word there. So it's an important note, not overall power, which is where my mind went first, but just pure strength of like who would win in like a street fight kind of deal, I guess. Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I thought this would be fun since it gives you a chance to get to know us better, and we're sticking it at the end. So if you only care about football and don't want to get to know us, then you can stop the podcast early, and that's fine too. So, like you said, we'll start with strongest superhero. So then we can have other superhero topics in the future if we want. We'll have random things. If you have ideas of things you want us to draft, definitely let us know on Twitter or our Discord. So we can have options in the future, and whichever team you like best between us, definitely let us know that too. But like you said, we'll have a 5-round draft, and this week we'll let you have the first overall pick. So you are on the clock. Who are you taking for the strongest superhero?
Yeah, so you've given me the first pick here. I don't know if it's like a mind game tactic or what, because I do feel like there's maybe an obvious 101. I just worry that there's also like an obvious counter to 101. So I'm going with the counter here to potentially block against that. I have no idea if that was your plan or not, but I might be overthinking it. So my first overall pick, I went with Superman Prime. So this is from Grant Morrison's DC 1 million storyline. So if this isn't allowed, then I'll go with Superman. Just plain and simple Superman. But I had to protect against maybe choosing Superman and then you going over the top with me with Superman Prime. But yeah, Superman, most powerful superhero, obviously. But there is a version of him that is like infinitely more powerful. And the way he's depicted in that storyline is having been absorbing the solar energy of like a tyrant sun called Solaris for 15,000 years, just making him like infinitely more powerful than he already was. And he's like all gold, so that he looks cool and different as well. But if that's cheating, then I'll say the boring and obvious answer of Superman.
Now that's fine. I had Superman up there. You know more about comics than I do. I know more about the movies. So on my list, all I had was Superman, but I'll let you go with that version. I will, with my first pick, go with the Incredible Hulk. I'll put Hulk at number one. Definitely more of a Marvel guy myself. So probably will end up with a couple Marvel people on my list. But I think if you're going with strength in Marvel, it's hard to go with anyone other than the big green monster.
Nice. Yeah. No, Hulk was up there on my list as well. But yeah, you're more Marvel. I'm actually more of a DC guy, but I do have if I'm picking second here, I do have another Marvel guy, and it's another comics guy. So people might get annoyed that they don't know who these people are, but he's called the Sentry. He's Robert Reynolds from the Marvel comics. Some people might have heard of him. He's not a part of the MCU yet, so not one that most people are probably aware of, but he's kind of an interesting character. He was like a meth addict. He suffered from like some schizophrenia as well, and he got his powers from stealing an experimental version of the super soldier serum that made Captain America who he is. But of course, being an experimental version of that serum, it gave him completely different energy and power. It was like a solar energy power, which has been described as like the power of a million exploding suns. So Superman-esque, I guess, for Marvel. He's got all the same powers: the strength, speed, flight, and vulnerability, and then they gave him like super intelligence as well. So again, comics gets pretty crazy. There's definitely an obsession with the power of the sun with some of these guys, but I'll put the Sentry in there for my second pick.
All right. I've definitely heard of him, but don't know all that much about him. But when I did my research, definitely saw him on a number of lists. And
Yeah,
then
okay.
my number two pick, I'm going with Thor from Marvel. When I was doing my research, a lot of times there were a clear four people, and Thor was one of those four pretty consistently. And other lists didn't have him anywhere near those top ones just because he has the strength, but you don't really think of him in terms of his quality of strength because you think of his hammer and his lightning and all that other fun stuff. But he's clearly very strong, and at least in terms of what we've seen in the MCU, arguably beat the Hulk, even though he let his thunder and lightning help him a bit there in that fight. But he also didn't have his choice of weapons as much there. So I'm definitely happy to pair Thor and the Hulk together since they've had plenty of teamwork in the past.
It's a nice team up for sure, and yeah, definitely super strong. I even like he's even kind of been nerfed a bit by the MCU. As far as his strength goes, he's even more powerful in the comics. But yep, that was that was going to be my next pick. So I might have to go off the beaten path here again. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm going to go with a character called Invincible. So this isn't a Marvel or a DC character, but it's one people might be aware of because it does have now an Amazon Prime animated show based on it. But it's Robert Kirkman's Image comic series. Robert Kirkman created The Walking Dead and this Invincible series. Again, maybe another like Superman-esque character. He's half human, half Viltrumite, which is like basically Kryptonians for this universe. Doesn't start off as powerful, but he definitely gets more powerful as the series progresses to become like the most powerful superhero. And he could fight for sure. There's some pretty epic fight scenes in that series as well. If anybody's read the comics, lots of gore and some gorgeous artwork from Ryan Ottley. But the series has done a nice job. It's only one season so far. If anybody hasn't watched Invincible on Amazon Prime.
Fair enough. I have not watched it, so maybe I need to check that out.
Check it out.
I will move away from Marvel for at least one pick and go with what I thought was the second most obvious option from DC. Wonder Woman was consistently in the top four, any list that I looked at. So I'm very happy to get her in the third round to join my roster.
That's annoying. I was choosing between Wonder Woman and Invincible. So you definitely got me there. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to go Wonder Woman. Damn it. All right, I'll go one maybe more people have heard of here. Also DC. I'm going with Green Lantern. And this is Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, because of his power ring, capable of creating and yielding any construct that he can imagine. So can make, like the biggest and most powerful weapons with the ring, force fields capable of withstanding super strength as well. Basically, the only limits to his power are his own imagination. But going with Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, he's the ultimate kind of ring slinger, in my opinion. So that's my, what is that, fourth pick?
Yep. So when I did my research, basically a lot of the things I only looked at Marvel and DC, and I'm like, I don't want to just go Marvel and DC for everything. So with my fourth pick, I will be going with Mr. Incredible from The Incredibles.
Oh, nice. It's a good
Yeah.
call. Okay. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Dang. I was looking
Yeah.
at just comics, but that's a nice one. That's a good
Yeah,
that's a
but
good
like
one.
even if I asked ChatGPT, it just automatically assumed that I wanted Marvel and DC, listed that for everything. And I'm like, okay, how about superheroes that aren't in Marvel or DC? And then it just went with a bunch of more niche comics. And then I'm like, okay, how about cartoons and movies and all that fun stuff too? So going
Nice.
with Mr. Incredible.
I like it. I like it. Okay, so yeah, that's a good one. So this is my last pick here. Probably gotta choose carefully, but I'm going with, so this maybe is Marvel's strongest hero, depending. Not one actually is in the MCU now, so it's Hercules. He's the son of Zeus. He is a Marvel character now, and he was at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder, in
Yeah.
the post credit scene. So he's portrayed by, I can't remember the actor's name, but Roy Kent from Ted Lasso is who he is. But yeah, super strong, obviously. Maybe my favorite example of his strength. There was a Spider-Man storyline where aliens tried to steal the island of Manhattan and ransom it off, which is again the absurdity of comics. But Spider-Man and Hercules eventually they get it back, and then what he does is he pulls the entire island of Manhattan on his own back into place, and they estimate that it weighed like 99 billion tons or something like that. So showing off his brute strength there, I went with Hercules to round out my team.
Fair enough. I did have Hercules on my list of people that
Nice.
I was considering. I was prepared a few more of my picks. I also had She-Hulk and Captain Marvel as some of my options if I didn't get to Marvel people early. But if we're talking superheroes, I am a huge Power Rangers fan, so I can't have a superhero list without including a Power Ranger.
Nice.
The Power Rangers aren't typically known for like individuals having specific superhero like attributes like super speed or super strength, but there was one who was known for being superhuman in terms of strength, and that was Katie Walker, the Yellow Time Force Ranger. So I'm going with the Yellow Time Force Ranger for my fifth pick.
Nice. Okay. You got me there. I don't know enough about the Power Rangers
Yeah,
to
I
know
knew
who's
I
going to
only
match
needed
up
to
against you.
prepare 9 people. So
Right.
I knew you were going to snipe that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. You got me on Wonder Woman. And then I think the only other one I had on my, actually two more on my list. I also had Captain Marvel on there just in case, and Shazam, the comic Shazam, not so much the movie version. But yeah, that was fun. We'll get, like you said, maybe a poll going on Twitter or something, and
Yeah.
if people have ideas, let us know. We'll get that out there maybe on Saturday or whenever, but we'll leave it open for a few days as well. And if you have ideas, let us know. We'll have some fun with it. We'll get you guys, the listeners, involved as well. But that's it for this week.